Double Masters 2022 is the moneyest Magic... hold on one second. Double Masters 2022 is the most moneyed set in Magic the Gathering's history. And today, we're gonna... look at the top 15 most valuable cards.
Magic.
I am a wizard.
History.
I'm an old wizard.
The Magic Historian.
My bones hurt. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. My friends, I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered to talk about the top 15 most valuable cards from Double Masters 2022 with value so large that your monocle will fall straight off your face. We're starting off at number 15 with Teferi's Protection, and this shows just how crazy Double Masters 2022 is that this card is ranked number 15. This card is incredibly powerful and showcases an amazing moment in Magic's history. Now, in terms of prices, this card is $27.99 right now using TCGplayer prices. If you want to check the current price, there are links down in the description. Click on them, you'll see the current price, and if you use those links for shopping, it also supports the channel. Now, Teferi's Protection is 1 white and 2 for an instant that says, until your next turn, your life total can't change and you gain protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out. And then it also says, exile Teferi's Protection. I can't even imagine the insanity if you were allowed to keep this thing in your graveyard and bring it back and use it again and again. But anyways, this card not only has the ultimate flavor of having Teferi protect you from everything, right? Your life total can't change. You can't even do it yourself. You can't go, you know what, I'm going to pay life to do things. Teferi's Protection extends that far. You have protection from everything, and all of your permanents are out of reach of all of your opponents until you get to your next turn when all of the stuff phases back. And in terms of the actual concept of the art, this showcases a pivotal moment in the Dominarian War where Phyrexia has just arrived. If you're looking up in the sky and you think those are majestic angels or some kind of avian creatures in the sky, no. Those are Phyrexian portals that are opening up, and they are about to belch Phyrexians down from the sky. So Teferi, against the wishes of Urza, phases out the entirety of his homeland. He's from Zhalfir. He uses his magic to phase Zhalfir out of existence. This causes crazy time ripples throughout the multiverse, turns into this big thing that will take hundreds of years to resolve, and ultimately, we're still seeing the effects of. If you love the Brothers War, the old school story stuff, I am working on a 1-hour episode of Brothers War lore right now that will be available on Fantasy Geographic. Absolutely awesome card. Moving on to number 14, we have a green beef boy, Allosaurus Shepherd, but in one way, the mighty have fallen because his price tag has tumbled. This reprint has brought him within reach. $28.35 is what he's going for right now. 1 green mana for a 1/1 mythic elf shaman that says this spell can't be countered. Green spells you control can't be countered. And I have to say, that is one of my favorite statements on a Magic card ever. I love this card. 2 green and 4, until end of turn, each elf creature you control has base power and toughness 5/5 and becomes a dinosaur in addition to its other creature types. The flavor behind this is absolutely wild. This guy turns all of your elves into dinosaurs. Admittedly, it is a little bit weird that he is an elf and his ability would turn him into one of these dinosaurs, but he's not a dinosaur in the artwork. But either way, the artwork looks great, right? You've got this elf shaman here and he's just kind of staring down fondly at this other dinosaur who is also an elf, and it's like, what kind of relationship do you guys have? This is bizarre, but ultimately, just on the power level of it, turning all your guys into 5/5 dinosaurs is a great finisher on top of not having your stuff countered. A big win in my book. Now, let's move on to number 13, which is also a glorious greeny boy. Concordant Crossroads. This was originally printed in my favorite set, Legends, all the way back in the day, but this one has a more affordable price tag at $30.28. And what do you get for that? 1 green for a world enchantment. If you don't know what world enchantments are, they function very similarly to regular enchantments, but there can ever only be 1 world enchantment in play. So if another one is played, it destroys the one that is already in play and takes over the world. So this is magic that blankets the entire plane that you are on, which is a really cool concept, right? Basically, for 1 green, you're giving all creatures haste across the entire plane that you're on. The flavor text says, "The wolf closed in, but then a strange wind whispered through the leaves, and with a burst of speed, the deer surged forward and out of reach." I'm sorry, flavor text, but guess what? Everybody has that burst of speed. So, you know what I mean? It wasn't just the deer, right? That kind of applies to everybody. But I forget all of that when I look at the artwork. This artwork is gorgeous. Imagine wandering around in this lush, verdant forest. It looks so inviting. And the way that they have chosen to show this haste concept with these springing deer and their little tracks emanating the green mana, it is subtle and beautiful. This is an absolute home run of a card. I love this artwork so much. So nice. Moving on, we've got number 12. We're going from beautiful to ugly in the form of Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn. 15 mana gets you a 15/15 Eldrazi that is currently coming in at $31.99 in terms of price tag. So, on top of having a big fat 15/15 body, Emrakul has the ability to not be countered. When you cast Emrakul, you take an extra turn after the current one. You also get flying, protection from spells that are 1 or more colors, Annihilator 6. And if you don't know what Annihilator is, it's whenever Emrakul swings, the defending player has to sacrifice 6 permanents right away before you even go ahead and declare blockers. It is crazy powerful. And the last ability is technically an ability, but it's more of a control put on the card. And that is when Emrakul is put into a graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffles the graveyard into their library. And that is to stop anything but instant speed graveyard resurrection shenanigans. Now, for me, one of the most striking things about this card has always been the artwork. Because when you look at the top of it, it almost looks like a floating mountainous region. But then underneath, you've got this kind of pulsating pink body, and then it turns into these crazy writhing tentacles. But if you get all the way down to the bottom, you'll notice that disturbingly, there are actually 4 arm-like, full-on, they look like human arm almost, appendages dangling down off of it, which just makes it that much more horrific. So, moving on to the next card in the list, we have Mana Drain. 2 blue for the most busted counterspell in the game. And look at the price tag now. It's only $35.16. These originally showed up back in the day of Legends. They were only uncommon, but Legends had a correlation problem where mana drains would only show up in 1 out of every second box, and Legends were only available for 2 weeks in the entire existence of the game. So think about how scarce these were before. It's great to see more of these getting out there, even if this is an overpowered and obnoxious card to deal with. So, what does it do? It's an instant that says counter target spell. At the beginning of your next main phase, add an amount of colorless mana equal to that spell's mana value. It was one thing when mana burn existed and you would take damage if you couldn't use the mana, which you usually could, but at least it felt like there was maybe a downside. This is all gravy. If you don't use the mana, you don't care, and it's a 2 blue hard counter. It's so solid. The flavor text is great too. Enthusiasm is no match for preparation. And I love the vortex of magic here, right? You've just got this swirl. It kind of looks like tidal waves that are swirling around at the outer edge, but then in the middle, it's turning into this darkening abyss as it pulls in this red magic down into a whirlpool. I really like that. The idea of being able to harness somebody else's magic, pull the magical essence out of it. Sure, you can't tap into the same colors, but you can still tap into their power. That's incredibly impressive, and you can see why planeswalkers would want to know this spell, right? Moving on, we've got number 10, Thrumming Stone. Anybody who likes to do ridiculous nonsense is a huge fan of this card. 5 mana for a legendary artifact, finally done with the legendary frame, which makes it stand out more. I like the distinctive legendary frames a lot, actually. So what does it do? One thing, real simple. Gives all your spells Ripple 4. What's Ripple? Well, whenever you cast a spell, you can reveal the top 4 cards of your library, and you can cast spells with the same name as that spell from among the revealed cards without paying their mana cost. So back in the days of Cold Snap, this is where we got the Ripple ability, but it really wasn't that big a deal. It didn't make any ripples in the pool, if you know what I'm saying, right? But then people started to notice, hey, there's some shenanigans you can pull with it. And nowadays, whether you want infinite rats, infinite mill, or infinite burn, Thrumming Stone has your back. You want to play your whole deck in one turn? Let's do it. I really dig the artwork too, because it feels like an ancient magic artifact. Like for me, I'm old school with this game. I think of myself as the planeswalker discovering these things. And when I look at the artwork, this feels like a long forgotten obelisk. And you're just traversing this plane and you come across it. And the closer you get to it, the more you feel this resonance. And then you realize what you can do with it, the potential of this magical power. It's just so epic. There's only one of these out there in the multiverse, and you found it. Thrumming Stone coming in at $37.99. Then at number 9, we've got Force of Negation. Another blue counterspell, 2 blue and 1 for an instant that says, if it's not your turn, you may exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Counter target non-creature spell. If that spell's countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. So in some ways, this is a better force of will, and in some ways, it's a worse force of will. But there is no denying that this is a very potent effect. Being able to counter spells without having mana available is very, very strong. The biggest balancing aspect of Magic the Gathering is literally the casting cost. So when you're able to step around that, it fundamentally changes how the game functions. And the artwork is awesome. Look at the flavor text. It says, try if you must. And the artwork is just this pure sphere of cancellation. What are you going to do, right? I can negate everything around me in a full sphere. You are launching waves of lava and lightning at me, and they're coming off like it's nothing. This is child's play. And the imperious stance of the wizard and the little bit of magic that had to be added to it to give the dramatic flair to the cloak. Think about this. This is a blue mage who is so pompous with their display of power and condescension that they made their magic flare their own cloak up inside the force bubble. They could have had it sit perfectly still, but it's like this epic, check out the winds blowing this, bro, I'm in a super battle. I love it. It's so over the top. Force of Negation's got a fat price tag. It's coming downtown at $45.25. Number 8 is Phyrexian Altar. Now, this is a card that was printed way back in Invasion. I never would have thought that it would become a big deal, but looking at it now, it's very plainly awesome. It is funny that time reveals how crazily good cards can be depending on different formats, but Phyrexian Altar is a 3 casting cost artifact that allows you to sacrifice a creature to add 1 mana of any color. And you can do that as much as you want. It is, in some ways, a much better Ashnod's Altar, although that one can give you 2 mana per creature, so there is an argument to be made in either direction. Phyrexian Altar commands a meaty price tag of $47.87 and also is epically flavorful. The flavor text says, unskin these impure bodies, great Yawgmoth, that the flesh may welcome your blessings. And that's from the Phyrexian scriptures. Yawgmoth, the father of machines, the ultimate enemy of Urza in the old storyline. So good, man. I love it. The Phyrexian Altar here with the Phyrexian symbols etched into it. It looks so good. This is fantastic. Moving on to number 7, we're looking at Dockside Extortionist, a 1 red and 1/2 monkey that's all about money. In fact, speaking of money, $48.31 is what it takes to get the regular version of this guy. So, what does he do? When he enters the battlefield, create X treasure tokens, where X is the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control. This is a big commander favorite. It can give you an absolutely insane amount of resources, right? Like when you look at it on the surface, you might go, what's this gonna do? And then you see it in action, you go, whoa, this card proved itself pretty much instantaneously, and now it is a big fat mythic. When you look at the artwork, I find it a lot of fun. You've got the monkey pirate, he's hanging up there with his feet curled around the rope. He's got this necklace with multiple keys to treasure chests hanging off of him. He's got a dagger with a gigantic ruby pommel stone. There's bags of gold hanging off the mast. Like, it's just fun. Coming in at number 6, we've got the Helmet Head Eldrazi Ulamog, the Infinite Gyre. 11 mana gets you this 10/10 Eldrazi. Also, $48.32 will get him for you as well. He is 1 cent more than the Dockside Extortionist, which I really enjoy. It's like he prices righted him. Ulamog is crazy. 10/10, when you cast the spell, destroy target permanent, because why not? Oh yeah, by the way, he's also indestructible and Annihilator 4, and also has that same ability where you have to shuffle him back in when he hits the graveyard. This is a wild smash daddy, right? Look at it. It's just hulking and raging out into the sky. You know what's funny is because the bottom half of this artwork is obscured by the text box, he actually looks the most humanoid of the 3 Eldrazi Titans. Really, like, you have to get down to the bottom half of his body to get to the truly horrific aspects of him. Moving on, we're going to talk about the last Eldrazi. Kozilek is coming in at number 5, butchering that truth and butchering your wallets at $49.79, which is a lot of money. 12/12, when you cast this spell, draw 4 cards. All the Eldrazi have such amazing feel-good abilities just when you cast them. They all have busted Annihilator. It's so crazy. This one's got Annihilator 4 too, and the same shuffle ability that we previously saw. And actually, you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, Kozilek does have a pretty humanoid feel to it when you look at the card without looking at the bottom, but it is different. Like, I mean, if he is humanoid, he's never missed neck day at the gym. You know what I mean? When you ask Kozilek what time it is, he always says it's gains o'clock, and he only works on his neck muscles, son. That's it. Every day is neck muscle day. But I mean, this card is super awesome, right? So this is what, like the 17th time they've reprinted these Titans, it feels like, and even now they command these crazy high price tags. Let's move on to number 4, the Mana Vault. 1 mana for an artifact that taps for 3 mana. What a deal. Doesn't untap during your untap step. You do have to pay 4 mana at the beginning of your upkeep if you want to untap it. And if you don't untap it, if it happens to be tapped at the beginning of your draw step, you do take 1 damage. But this is bonkers. 1 mana investment to get 3 mana out of it is such a speed boost, and the taking the damage is mostly going to be irrelevant. You being at 20 life and you being at 17 life is almost always identical in a game of Magic. Most of the time, it's only that last point of life that really matters. I played with Mana Vault a lot back in the day when it used to be the weird pink glob box, right? So I know how much you can let these things hammer on you, and it doesn't even matter. This is a really powerful card, which is why, even though it's been reprinted a bunch of times, it's still coming in at $54.99 for the most basic version available. And this artwork is absolutely phenomenal. I finally got to fully see in depth the artwork instead of just seeing a tiny version of it, and it's gorgeous. You have the Mana Vault itself, which is this ornate looking building almost, right? And you've got the magic that's flowing up out of it. You can see the base of it where the light is coming out of what looks almost like stained glass windows with the mist flowing around it. And then there's more of that mist flowing up as this magical energy is pouring straight out up of it like a beacon. And you've got these stones floating around it as well that are infused with this magic. And you have to remember that regular basic lands, your forests, your islands, that's an entire forest, right? And that's to get 1 mana. This is a location smaller geographically. It's just this little spire, and it can churn out the equivalent of 3 entire forests worth of mana. Not nature attuned, not green mana, but still, you get what I'm saying. The inherent power is so good. And I love the shadowy little mage there who has a staff that looks like the stone in it is made of the same magical stones that are floating around the top of the mana vault. Like, that's how you attune to it. You have a staff with a gemstone that was floating above it, and you can channel that mana across the multiverse to wherever you are. How epic is that? Number 3 is Wrenn and 6, an absolutely devastating planeswalker. A green and a red gets you a 3 loyalty planeswalker that has the ability +1, return up to 1 target land card from your graveyard to your hand, -1, deal 1 damage to any target, and -7, you get an emblem with instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard have retrace, so you can discard lands from your hand to cast the spells from your graveyard. This is a lot packed into 2 mana, and there's a reason that this card is $58.89, even though it has already been reprinted before. Man, I love the flavor concept of this as well. Wrenn is the individual at the front. Wrenn is a crazy, amazing dryad who basically drew this intense inferno magic into herself. Now she has the ability to freely roam. Dryads can't normally do that. They have to stay within a radius of their home tree. Number 2 is Cavern of Souls, a mind-blowing land that is still commanding an insane price tag of $63.73. Why? Because it's used in virtually every tribal deck you can imagine. When it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type. It taps for a colorless mana, or it taps for a mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type, and that spell can't be countered. This is a truly powerful card. The artwork is really funky too. You've got some kind of crazy underwater aqueduct system, right? And it looks like you've just got water flowing in. But then when you look, you can see these arms rising up, and you realize those are the souls of people. And so what's actually flowing in isn't water. These are catacombs that pour essentially liquid soul stuff down into a pool. It's absolutely amazing. Imagine stumbling upon one of these locations and realizing what you could do with this power. And now we have the Big Daddy, number 1. And once I tell you this price tag, you're probably going to want to go down to those links at the bottom and check right away, because I imagine it's no longer sitting at $353. $353. That is absolutely insane, and there's no way this reprint is not going to tank that price. So, Imperial Seal is 1 black for a sorcery that says, search your library for a card, then shuffle, put that card on top, you lose 2 life. The flavor text says, your presence at the palace this evening is required. And it's from Queen Marchesa. The artwork shows, quite simply, a letter being sealed with her rose, boom, to be sent off to the person who is going to be coming to this event. I do like the fact that the extra wax drippings do have that aspect of blood, and they almost tie into the life that you're paying for this. Now, this reprint kind of throws some people for a loop. They go, why is this card so expensive when Vampiric Tutor is straight up better? It's the same card, but at instant speed. Why would I want Imperial Seal? Well, the main reason that Imperial Seal's price tag was so high is it was only available in Portal 3 Kingdoms before, which was a very exclusive and short printed product that was made decades ago. So as a result, you couldn't really come across these cards. Now that it is going to be in regular circulation, you will see the price has dropped considerably to whatever it is at the time you're watching this video. And that wraps up all of the cards here, my friends. I am going to throw in some bloopers here at the end for you to enjoy, and the full blooper reel will be available for my patrons over on Patreon. Thank you very much for supporting my channel.
Double Masters 2022 is the most out.
Come on, man. All right, hold on. We can do this. Hold on.